Hare Krishna, welcome to this episode of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we'll be continuing to read chapter 12 of the Adi Leela. We have finished until verse 12 and we will continue from verse 13 onwards. This is the continuation of the disciplic succession of Advaita Ācārya. Alright, so we will say our Mangalacharan prayers and quickly begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So we have read this. धान्यराशि मापे जय छे पातना सहिते पाश्चाते पातना उड़ाया संस्कार करते. Paddy is mixed with straw at first and one must fan it to separate the paddy from the straw. So to divide the useful and the useless. So he mentions that some of them followed Advaita Ācārya and others did not. So the one who follows the Ācārya, and if you have not attended that session, our previous Chaitanya Charitamrita session, look for the green background behind if you have to search for it. The last among the live section of the YouTube channel. Now the green is not so visible. It's much lighter shade because new lights have been installed. So that whiteness is kind of subverting the green. Now look for the last green background class. So that is the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And there we have discussed Advaita Ācārya's, these first 12 verses, and especially the 8 to 12 is very, very, very important. And its application is universal. And basically the gist is that the Ācārya must be, the order of the Ācārya must be followed. If we disobey the order, we have become useless in effectively being a servant of the Sampradaya, and in our own sadhana everything will go down, in the movement everything will go down, everything will go down if we don't follow the order of the Ācārya, and we become useless. And that's the thing, you see. To judge to judge who is actually his disciple, to divide the useful from the useless, one must measure the activities of such disciples in executing the will of the spiritual master. So, to judge who is actually a disciple. So, We are not like these so-called modern leftist idea that, oh, don't be judgmental. That is stupid. Everybody is always making a judgment. In everything, you are making a judgment. How can you, if you can't judge, if you can't make a decision and if you can't judge, you're called indecisive. How can you say that, oh, don't judge people? We should judge based on proper information and according to, from the lens of Shastra. What is Sattvic, what is Rajasic, what is Tamasic, and what is Shuddha Sattva. Based on this framework, we have to judge because our association, it's incumbent upon us to actually judge because what is that? Karanam gunasangosya sadasadyoni janmasu. Our birth in this material world, our sojourn in this material existence is predicated upon our association. And if our association is not, you know, proper, if it is in the tamasic, then we go to tamasic destination. If it is rajasic, we go to rajasic destination. If it is sattvic, we go to sattvic destination. If it is shuddha sattvic, vasudeva sthiti, then we go to the spiritual world. So, in for our own good, in fact, we have to judge. So, who is a actual disciple and who is useless? That also we have to judge. We cannot say, oh, all Vaishnav, everybody is wearing tilak, you cannot offend. That is nonsense. We have to be able to judge because there are many in the garb of Vaishnava, but they're not in character a Vaishnava. And we should have association of those who are Vaishnava in character, not just namesake, some symbolism. No, we're not here for symbolism, some superficial understanding of Vaishnava. No, we are not for that, because that will not help anyone. Such association. So we have to judge, and of course, among the useful Vaishnavas, the useless ones, we should not associate with them. Among the useful Vaishnavas, there are of course grades of devotion. There is third class, second class, first class, and that is stated how we should associate with different grades of devotees. That is stated in Nectar of Instruction, verse 5 and 6, and in fact 4 also, 4, 5, 6. Okay then, so we will go to the next verse, 12, 13. अच्युतानंद बड़ शाखा आचार्य नंदन आजन्म से विलाते हो चैतन्य चरण. A big branch of Advaita Ācārya was his son Achyutananda. From the beginning of his life, he engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya. Just a second. From the beginning of his life. So this is Ācārya. And Ācārya, from beginning of his life, he is serving Krishna. Like Parishit Maharaj, like Prabhupada, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. These is very notable examples. Chaitanya Gosai Guru Keshava Bharati Ei Pitar Vakya Shune Dukha Pailati. When Achyutananda heard from his father that Keshav Bharati was the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was very unhappy. Now you will know why. Jagat Guru te tumi karo aiche upadesh, tumaro e upadeshe nashta hoilo desh. He told his father, your instruction that Keshav Bharati is the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will spoil the entire country. So Advaita Ācārya. So Achyutananda is telling Advaita Ācārya that your instruction that Keshav Bharati is the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will spoil the entire country. Why so? Because Keshav Bharati is from the Mayavadi school. So let's read. Chaudda bhuvaner guru Chaitanya Gosai tar guru anya ekono shastre nae. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the spiritual master of the 14 worlds, but you say that someone else is his spiritual master. This is not supported by any revealed scripture. So this is the point. पंचम वर्षेर बालक कोहे सिद्धांतेर सार Shunya Paila Ācārya Santosha Apar. When Advaita Ācārya heard this statement from his 5-year-old son Achyutananda, he felt great satisfaction because of his conclusive judgment. So Advaita Ācārya was very happy that his son was unhappy that when his father said, "Oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's spiritual master is Keshav Bharati." Of course, even when we say Krishna's father is Nanda Maharaj, there is also nobody can be the origin of Krishna. So, philosophy-wise, tattva-wise, that is not uh, correct. But rasa is the other consideration with which Krishna accepts some people as his superior, some devotees as his superior, to enjoy a certain rasa and also at the same time teach the people of the world that one must have a guru and how to respect one's parents. Everything is mentioned. So Krishna teaches many things, and he enjoys his relationships with his devotees in the different rasas, and he at the same time teaches the general population on how to act on Vedic principles. So many things he does at once. So purport. Commenting on verses 13 through 17, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives an extensive description of the descendants of Advaita Acharya. The Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antya Khanda chapter 1 states that Achyutananda was the eldest son of Advaita Acharya. The Sanskrit book the Sanskrit book Advaita Charita states, okay, Advaita Charita. There is one book translated into English called Advaita Prakash, so-called life of Advaita Acharya, but there are a lot of contradictions in that, a lot of philosophical deviations and some factual deviations as well, historical deviations. So, in fact, it is some concocted version of some Sahajiya branch of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Even until very recently, I thought Advaita Prakash was the Advaita Acharya's life, but apparently it's not. So, just to inform all of you as well. So here now I'm reading something else now. Advaita Charita, the Sanskrit book Advaita Charita, is quoted here. That maybe that's a proper biography of Chaitanya Advaita Acharya. The Sanskrit book Advaita Charita states, quote, Advaita Acharya Prabhu had 3 sons who were devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Their names were Achyuta, Krishna Mishra, and Gopal Das. And they were all born of the womb of his wife Sita Devi. Advaita Acharya also had 3 more sons whose names were Balaram, Swarup, and Jagadish. Thus there were 6 sons of Advaita Acharya. Unquote. Among the 6 sons, 3 were strict followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and of these Achyutananda was the eldest. Now, it's not explicitly stated here that Balaram, Swarup, and Jagadish were not followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but it is meant, but it is implied. There's a tacit indication here that the other 3 were not. It is said that, um, 3 sons who were devotees, who were Achyuta, Kashi Mishra, and Gopal Das, and he had 3 other sons. Thus he had 6 sons. That means the other 3 are not devotees. Advaita Prabhu married in the beginning of the 15th century Shakabda, late 15th century AD. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to visit the village of Ramkheli, married, okay, in the beginning of the 15th century, that means late 15th century AD. Okay. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to visit the village of Ramkheli while going from Jagannath Puri to Vrindavan during the Shakabda years 1433 and 1434, which is 1511 and 1512 AD, Achyutananda was only 5 years old. The Chaitanya Bhagavat Antya Khanda, 4th chapter, describes Achyutananda at the time as Panchavarsha Vayasa Madhura Digambar, only 5 years old and standing naked. Therefore, it is to be concluded that Achyutananda was born sometime in the year 1428 AD, 1428, which is Shakabda, which is 1506 AD. Before the birth of Achyutananda, Advaita Prabhu's wife Sita Devi came to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at his birth. Thus, it is not possible that she had the other three sons by Advaita within the 21 years between 1407 and 1428 Shakabda, which is 1486 and 1507. In an unauthorized book of the name Sitadvaita Charita, published in Bengali in the unauthorized newspaper Nityananda Dayini in 1792 Shakabda or 1870 AD, it is mentioned that Achyutananda was a class friend of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You see, this is how history gets distorted. Now, we have to therefore have proper history coming from the Sampradaya. So, we cannot distort, spread fake news, you see, basically. So, when we publish anything, we have to be very, very careful of its veracity and authenticity. According to Chaitanya Bhagavat, this statement is not at all valid. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted the renounced order of sannyas in the year 1431 Shakabda, which is 1509 AD, he came to the house of Advaita Prabhu and at Shantapur. At that time, as stated in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antyakhanda chapter 1, Achyutananda was only 3 years old. The Chaitanya Bhagavat further states that the naked child, the son of Advaita Prabhu, immediately came and fell down at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord immediately took him on his lap, although he was not very clean, having dust all over his body. Lord Chaitanya said, "My dear Achyuta, Advaita Ācārya is my father and thus we are brothers." Before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his spiritual forms during his residence at Navadvip, he asked Sri Ram Pandit, Srivas Thakur's brother, to go to Shantipur and bring back Advaita Ācārya. Achyutananda joined his father at that time. It is said, Advaiter Tanaya Achyutananda Nam Param Balak Seho Kande Aviram. Achyutananda also joined in crying in transcendental bliss. Again, when Lord Chaitanya beat Advaita Acharya for explaining Srimad Bhagavatam from an impersonalist viewpoint, opposed to the principles of Bhakti Yoga, yeah, he actually beat him. Achyutananda was also present at it. Therefore, all these incidents must have occurred only 2 or 3 years before Lord Chaitanya accepted the sannyas order. As mentioned above, in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Antyakhanda chapter 1, it is stated that Achyutananda, the son of Advaita Acharya, offered his obeisances to the Lord. Therefore, it should be concluded that from the very beginning of his life, Achyutananda was a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is no information that Achyutananda ever married, but he is described as the biggest branch of the Advaita Acharya family. From a book named Shakha Nirnayamrita, it is understood that Achyutananda was a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit and that he took shelter of Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri and engaged in devotional service. The Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila, chapter 10, states that Achyutananda, the son of Advaita Acharya, lived in Jagannath Puri, taking shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gadadhar Pandit, in the last years of his life, also lived with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. There is no doubt, therefore, that Achyutananda was a disciple of Pandit Gadadhar. Now, it is interesting here, Achyutananda did not marry that, but he is described as the biggest branch of Advaita Acharya's family. Branch means he has produced so many downline. Now, how is that possible? So that is explained actually. There is one article in the book Brahmana and Vaishnava, which I can take it out here. It's the book, and in the end, there is an article by, I think, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, if I'm not wrong, Ācārya Santana. I don't know if you can see that. Ācārya Santana. So, this is a very interesting article. The difference between Parivar and the Santan of an Ācārya. The seminal descendants are known as Ācārya Santan. Their surrendered servants and devotees in disciplic succession are also known as their Santan. Hmm? In Bengal, the servants in the disciplic succession are called Parivar or family, and seminal descendants are called Santan. When one mentions the Vamsha or dynasty of an Acharya, it refers to his seminal children as well as his disciples. So, this whole article is very interesting about Acharya Santan and how this is key to understanding the Sampradaya. One second. So, Achyutananda was a brahmachari, but because he had disciples, and therefore he was the biggest branch. Many disciples apparently. From here we can understand. So there is no doubt, therefore, that Achyutananda was a disciple of Pandit Gadadhar. In the accounts of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing in front of the car during the Rath Yatra festival, Achyutananda's name is to be found many times. So, Radhika Sakhi Mataji has a question. So, three sons of Advaita Ācārya were not strict followers, but if they appeared in the family of such a great personality, Mahavishnu himself, how is it that they were not devotees? Although they were not followers, would they still go back to Godhead because they were in touch with the Lord himself as his son? Well, they will eventually go back, for sure. But it is to show that Krishna's son can become a demon. Who is that? There was one, it seems, what is his name? I think Banasura. Who is that? Who's Krishna's son? He became demon. Um, I forget the name. So, and we, first of all, are all Krishna's sons. Krishna is our father. And we also became demons. Now we are trying to, reclaim ourselves. So, it is to show that seminal descent is not the criterion for becoming devotee. Like Yaduvamsha, when they offended Narad Muni, finished. So, with that annihilation of the Yaduvamsha, where they fought with each other, Acharyas explain different lessons that are to be gleaned from that incident. How come the Lord's own family killed themselves like that? Um, First of all, of course, there was nobody else who can kill them. There's no other cause of their death, only they can kill themselves. But apart from all of that, it is to establish a very important point that even if one is belonging to Lord's family, if he becomes inimical or hostile to the devotees, the authorized devotees of the Lord will not tolerate. So when they came and poked fun at Narad Muni, because one of the Samba, I think, I don't know, he went and disguised himself as a pregnant woman and put some pillow or something, and then asked Narad Muni whether he's a boy or a girl. Then Narad Muni said that womb will be the cause of the destruction of your entire dynasty. Then they were horrified. Then they saw it was a lump of metal. It became, and then they wanted to grind it and then throw it away. And they did that, and then all those powder they actually grew as like a grass, but they were pointed shafts, metal shafts. And then later on, they were intoxicated, and then they killed each other with these sharp rods. And then that's how the end of the Yadu dynasty happened. So Narad Muni is an authorized devotee, and he could not. They should not have offended him like that. Great sages are not to be joked around with. You see, it's such a small thing, seemingly small thing. It's not actually a small thing, but it led to such a vast destruction of the entire dynasty. um, Sadhushu, what is that? 9469 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahartuh kurute shivam. 9469. Sadhushu prahitam tejah. Sadhushu prahitam tejah prahartuh kurute shivam. One's so-called prowess, when employed against the devotee, certainly harms he who employs it. Thus, it is the subject and not the object who is harmed. So, this is what happened to them. So, reading on. So, in the accounts of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing in front of the car during the Rath Yatra festival, Achyutananda's name is to be found many times. It is stated that in the party of Advaita Ācārya from Shantipur, Achyutananda was dancing and others were singing. At that time, the boy was only 6 years old. Text 87 of the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika, compiled by Sri Kavikarnapur, describes Achyutananda as a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit and a great and dear devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. According to the opinion of some, he was an incarnation of Kartikeya, the son of Lord Shiva, and according to others, he was formerly the gopi named Achyuta. So Achyuta, with a with a you know dirgha symbol on the top. So that is a female name. Like Krishna is Krishna. Krishna is Draupadi. So the female. So apparently he was incarnation of Kartika, and also, according to others, um, he's the Gaura Ganodesha Deepika 88 supports both these opinions. So apparently he is incarnation of both Kartikeya and Achyuta Gopi. So I mean, just see how two personalities can come as one. Skanda is Achyutananda. Wow. Another book, Narottam Vilas, compiled by Sri Narahari Das, mentions Achyutananda's presence during the festival at Khetari. This Khetari is the first Gaura Purnima festival after the disappearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it was organized by Narottam Das Thakur. It was one of the most iconic festivals of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, because it's the first Gaura Purnima festival, which is just like 2 days away from now, 3 days away. So 7th of March, today is the 4th. So that was Achyutananda was there in that kirtan organized by, and the whole program organized by Narottam Das Thakur. It was a very grand program. According to Sri Narahari Das, during the last days of his life, Achyutananda stayed in his house at Shantipur. But during the presence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he lived at Jagannath Puri with Gadadhar Pandit. Of the 6 sons of Advaita Ācārya, 3, Achyutananda, Krishna Mishra and Gopal Das, lived faithfully in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Since Achyutananda did not accept a wife, he had no issue. I don't know if you know this language. He had no issue means he had no children. Sometimes we say, oh, he has no issue, he has no problems, or something like that. That's not this issue here is an offspring. That's another meaning of the word issue. Because they issue forth from the father and mother, and therefore an offspring is also called issue. I don't know if you know that language in English. It is used like that. He had no issue. Some people think, oh, because he did not have a wife, he has no problems. That's another thing that's also true. But the second son of Advaita Ācārya, Krishna Mishra, had 2 sons, Raghunath Chakravarti and Dola Govinda. The descendants of Raghunath still live in Shantipur. In the neighborhoods of Madan Gopal Pad, Ganakar, Mirzapur, and Kumarakhali. Dola Govinda had 3 sons, namely Chanda, Kandarpa, and Gopinath. The descendants of Kandarpa live in Maldah in the village Jikabadi. Gopinath had three sons, Sri Vallabha, Pranavallabha, and Keshava. The descendants of Sri Vallabha live in the villages known as Mashiyadara, which is Mahishadera, Damukadiya, and Chandipur. There is a genealogical table from the family of Sri Vallabha, beginning from his eldest son Ganganarayan. The descendants of Sri Vallabha's youngest son, who is Vallabha? Oh, Sri Vallabha. Oh, Sri Vallabha. Okay, the first son of Gopinath. Okay. The descendants of Sri Vallabha's youngest son Ram Gopal still live in Damukadiya, Chandipur, and Sholamari, and so on. The descendants of Pranavallabha and Keshav live in Uthali. The son of Pranavallabha was Ratneshwar, and his son was Krishnarama, whose youngest son was Lakshmi Narayan. His son was Navakishore, and Navakishore's second son was Roma Mohan. Okay, so who's the first son? We don't know. So I think the more important names are mentioned here. Whose eldest son was Jagabandhu, and whose third son Veerachandra accepted the sannyas order and established a deity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Katwa. Look at the extensive record keeping. So actually, these kinds of record keeping really come in handy, and not just handy, they become invaluable as time passes on. Because there is, at least in the medieval India, say from 2000, 3000 years old to 2000, 1000 years old, and even like to the 500 or something years back, there was very little record keeping of history. Or maybe there was and it was destroyed. That could have been another. Because with the Mughal invasion, a lot of records were destroyed. So we would have had more, record of history. But this archival process, that's why when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions all these things, this is actually his mentioning. And when he mentions all these genealogical tables and geographical maps, uh, what railway station landmarks and everything, these may not sound very interesting to us at the moment, but for an archaeologist, it becomes invaluable. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur found Mayapur, the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jagannath Das Babaji confirmed that. That's why his mantra is Gauravir Bhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta Sajjana Priyaha Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Sri Jagannathaya Te Namaha. So Gaura Avirbhava Bhumestvam Nirdeshta. So he has given conclusive evidence that this is the when Bhaktivinoda Thakur with his all findings, he came to the point that this is the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mayapur. Then when he brought Jagannath Das Babaji for his confirmation, he came there and immediately, although he was very, very old and he could only be carried in a basket and he could not even open his eyes and, like stand on his own, he jumped up from the basket and then started to dance. And he was very tall. So he was starting to dance like anything with ecstasy. So that confirmed that ecstasy of Jagannath Das Babaji confirmed that this is the birth site of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, in finding that birth site, Bhaktivinoda Thakur went through so many archival maps, and mind you, those days there was no Google or something like that. Like even now, Google Maps is there. That shows the current map. I don't know if there is a feature in Google where we can access, say, map 50 years back or 100 years back, political map, like what were the boundaries. Like India was not called India before, there were so many kingdoms. So if I want to look at an Indian map of 200 years back, where do I find those archival maps? And there must be some kinds of records, archives. But these become invaluable because if we want to understand what happened, and that's how, you know, looking at maps, interviewing different people, Bhaktivinoda Thakur did all this, and then he many times was misled into, oh, this is the place of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So many people try to mislead him also. So he took all those evidences and then, uh, you know, studied them and saw which was right and which was wrong, which made sense, which did not make sense. And then finally, with all his, of course, this is another thing. One needs spiritual strength to actually be able to find the birth site of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just these maps, that is secondary thing. But even you give all the evidence to a non-devotee, he may not be able to find. So with his spiritual strength, he found it. So, knowing the struggle of his father, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, therefore, in his Anubhashya, in his commentary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, spelled out all these places in genealogical tables, whatever historical knowledge that is there, he shared it there. Not only that, he made a Vaishnava almanac, which is a panchang, basically. So, highlighting all the different appearances and disappearance days of various acharyas and, you know, um, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, along with, of course, the incarnations of the Lord. Even even the Lord, even Ramachandra Bhagavan Krishna, when they come, what is the constellation, what is the astrological, this position and of the stars and everything, it's all mentioned. This is proper record keeping. So sometimes people write concocted biographies of people, though. So who is writing and who is not? So we must know. All these things matter in order to. This is called I think epistemology or historiology. Historiology is the study of history based on facts, because there will be so much you have to filter through what is correct, what is wrong, and all that. So how to go about doing that is historiology. But you see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis to excavate the holy places in Vrindavan. They were lost. How to excavate? So, of course, spiritual strength, and also with um, studying the texts of the Vedic texts, and then figuring out on the ground how to find these places. So these will become invaluable, especially say 600, 700 years back later. Sorry. Then they look back at these records. Oh, there was this mentions. Like we have the Bhagavatam talking about Vrindavan, Dwarka, and all this. And then on the ground, all these things, Ram Setu, Dwarka, and even Vrindavan, Mathura, these all are there. So Kurukshetra is there. All these things are there. So we can actually go to the place of pilgrimage and in that way. So it has to correlate with not only the books but also the places and everything. And everything has to be arranged in such a way that people get more and more faith in all these things, and they get purified by going to these places and associating with devotees and all of that. Okay, so continuing on, his son was Navakishore, and Navakishore's second son was Ram Mohan, whose eldest son was Jagabandhu, and whose third son Veerachandra accepted the sannyas order and established the deity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Kattva. These two sons of Ram Mohan were known as Bada Prabhu and Chota Prabhu, and they inaugurated the circumambulation of Navadvip Dham, Navadvip Parikrama. Oh, so they inaugurated the Navadvip Parikrama. This Bada Prabhu and Chota Prabhu, sons of Ram Mohan. So the first son and the third son, Jagabandhu and Veerachandra. Veerachandra was a sannyas. Jagabandhu was not. No, sorry. Ram Mohan, whose eldest son was Jagabandhu and whose third son Veerachandra. Okay, yes. Yeah, this Jagabandhu and Veerachandra were known as Bada Prabhu and Chota Prabhu. And they inaugurated the circumambulation Navadvip Parikrama. Now all devotees do Navadvip Parikrama. But you see, this information is quite nice. That who inaugurated all this. One may refer to the Vaishnava Manjusha for the complete genealogical table of Advaita Prabhu in the line of Krishna Mishra. So Vaishnava Manjusha. So there is also some reference to texts where we can have further reading of this. So this is quite interesting. Maybe to show that even his seminal offspring will not be authentic and Lord made them as delinquents. So yeah, to show that even in the Kali Yuga especially, the people they have this birthright Brahmana. Now it's going on, right? So this is Asura Varnashram. This is Asuric. So to show that seminal offspring is not the criterion, but the behavior is the criterion. The character is the criterion of a real devotee of Krishna. So to establish that, this is quite important. कृष्ण मिश्र नाम आर्य आचार्य आचार्य तनय Chaitanya Gosai Vaise Jahar Hridoy. Krishna Mishra was the son of Advaita Ācārya. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always sat in his heart. This is the just now we have read about Achyutananda, and now it's about Krishna Mishra. Now this is kind of all. Shri Gopal Name Ara Ācārya Sutta Tahar Charitra Suno Atyanta Adbhuta. Shri Gopal was another son of Shri Advaita Ācārya Prabhu. Now just hear about his characteristics, for they are all very wonderful. So we have recently one devotee who got initiated and by the name of Sri Gopal Das. Of course, I was thinking, oh, it is Sri Gopal Das, Krishna's name. But here, Sri Gopal is actually another son of Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu. Um, so the third son. As mentioned above, Sri Gopal Das was one of the three devoted sons of Advaita Acharya. He is further described in Madhya of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 12, texts 143 to through 149. गुंडीचा मंदिरे महाप्रभुर सम्मुखे कीर्तने नर्तन करे बड़ प्रेम सुखे. When Lord Chaitanya personally cleansed the Gundicha Mandir in Jagannath Puri, Gopal danced in front of the Lord with great love and happiness. Purport: the Gundicha Mandir is situated in Jagannath Puri, and every year Jagannath, Balabhadra, and Subhadra come there from the Jagannath temple to stay for 8 days. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived at Jagannath Puri, every year he personally cleansed this temple with his principal devotees. The Gundicha Marjan chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 12 describes this vividly. नाना भावोद्गम देहे अद्भुत नर्तन दुई गोसाएं हरि बोले आनंदित मन. While Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Prabhu chanted the Hare Kṛṣṇa mantra and danced, there were various ecstatic symptoms in their bodies and their minds were very pleased. नाचिते नाचिते गोपाल होइलो मूर्छित भूमेते पड़िलो देहे नाहिको संवित. While all of them danced, Gopal dancing and dancing fainted and fell to the ground unconscious. दुखित होइलो आचार्य पुत्र को ले लया रक्षा करे नरसिंहेर मंत्र पढ़िया. रक्षा करे नरसिंहेर मंत्र पढ़िया. Advaita Acharya Prabhu became very unhappy. Taking his son on his lap, he began to chant the Narasimha mantra for his protection. Nana mantra pade na acharya, Nana mantra pade na acharya, na hoya chetana, Ācārya dukhe Vaishnava korena krandana. Advaita Acharya chanted various mantras, but Gopal did not come to consciousness. Thus all the Vaishnavas present cried in sorrow at his plight. तबे महाप्रभु तार हृदय हस्त धरी उठो गोपाल कैलो बोलो हरि हरि. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then put his hand on the chest of Gopal and told him, "My dear Gopal, get up and chant the holy name of the Lord." उठिल गोपाल प्रभुर स्पर्श ध्वनि सुनि आनंदित होया सबे करे हरि ध्वनि. When he heard this sound and felt the touch of the Lord, Gopal immediately got up and all the Vaishnavas chanted the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in jubilation. Ācārya Āruputra Sri Balaram Āruputra Swarup Shakha Jagadish Nam. The other sons of Advaita Ācārya were Sri Balaram, Swarup and Jagadish. Purport: the Sanskrit book Advaita Charita states that Balaram, Swarup and Jagadish were the fourth, fifth and sixth sons of Advaita Ācārya. Therefore, Sri Advaita Ācārya had six sons. Balaram, Swarup and Jagadish, being Smartas or Mayavadis, were rejected by Vaishnava society. Sometimes Mayavadis pose themselves as Vaishnavas or worshippers of Lord Vishnu, but actually they do not believe in Lord Vishnu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for they consider demigods like Lord Shiva, Durga, the Sun God, and Ganesh equal to him. They are generally known as Panchopasaka Smartas, and one should not count them among the Vaishnavas. Balaram had 3 wives and 9 sons. The youngest son of his first wife was known as Madhusudan Goswami. He took the title Bhattacharya and accepted the path of the Smarta or Mayavad philosophy. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur notes that the son of Goswami Bhattacharya, Sri Radharaman Goswami Bhattacharya, refused the title Goswami because it is generally meant for sannyasis, those who have taken the renounced order of life. One who is still in family life should not misuse the title Goswami. Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not recognize the caste Goswamis because they were not in line with the 6 Goswamis in the renounced order, who were direct disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Bhakta Raghunath Goswami, Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that the Grihastha ashram or the status of family life is a sort of concession for sense gratification. Therefore, a Grihastha should not falsely adopt the title Goswami. The ISKCON movement has never conferred the title Goswami upon a householder. Although all the sannyasis we have initiated in ISKCON are young, we have awarded them the titles of renounced order of life, Swami and Goswami, because they have completely dedicated their lives to preach the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that not only do the householder caste Goswamis disrespect the title Goswami, but also, following the principles of the Smarta Raghunandan, they exhibit. Okay. Following these principles of the Smarta Raghunandan, they exhibit great foolishness by burning a straw image of Advaita Ācārya in a Shraddha ceremony, thus acting like Rakshasas and disrespecting the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which is the guide for Vaishnavas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that sometimes these Smarta caste Goswamis write books on Vaishnava philosophies or commentaries on the original scriptures, but a pure devotee should cautiously avoid reading them. Some idiot is there in the comment section. Please ban him. I think he likes urine of somebody. So please ask him to drink some urine and get lost. So, I mean, that's what he writes on the comment. So now, interesting, this Smarta Raghunandan, there is an article by Bhaktivinoda Thakur which I was reading in that Bhaktivinoda Institute.org website, where he was talking about Raghunandan. I think no, maybe it's this book, this Brahmana and Vaishnava. Raghunandan, there was Smarta Raghunandan who introduced all kinds of weird practices inside the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And many were actually even Vaishnavas were subscribing to that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was not at all happy with that, and he wrote quite a critical article about him, criticizing him and criticizing the followers, and asking them not to follow him as Vaishnavas. Um, this Raghunandan came quite a little bit after the disappearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he established some things which are like completely off. Now, in ISKCON movement, Prabhupada says he has never conferred a title Goswami upon a householder. But unfortunately, we have so many so-called Goswamis in sannyas order who fell from grace like anything. This Chakravarti Challapalli Srinivas. Narakasur, correct. That is the example. Is the son of Krishna who became a demon. Now, in ISKCON, I mean, so many so-called, sannyasis, so many fell away from grace. Now, it is not Prabhupada's fault. See, anybody can fall down at any time. So one must be very cautious. And how shameless the ISKCON sannyasis who fell down, and then still, even other sannyasis and others, they quote the 930 verse, which is Apichet Suduracharo Bhajate Ma Mananya Bha Sadhureva Samanta. Bhajate Ma. Okay, they say, okay, because 930 says, but this is Bhagavad Gita 9.30. I mean, for those of you who do not know, this is like Apichet Suduracharo Bhajate Ma Mananya Bha Sadhureva Samantavya Samyak Vyavasito Hisa. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. Now, these sannyasis, I mean, so-called sannyasis, they are taking advantage of this verse and saying, "Oh, you see, the Shastra says, you should accept him as a sannyasi, sadhu. You cannot, even though he has gone astray. Shastra says like this. This is complete misuse, and in the purport, Prabhupada mentions this very clearly because Bhajate Mam Ananya Bhak, without deviation, one is worshipping Krishna. That is the sign. And also, even if he is committing most abominable action, you see the next verse, Kshipram Bhavati Dharmatma. Very soon he becomes a Dharmatma. But if he is not becoming after a very long time also, something is seriously wrong. And recently, I mean, I'm talking this in the wake of some horrific revelations from so-called Sri Mayapur Gurukul. I mean, I don't know if you have read that story, but it's horrific. I mean, I cannot even read it in a video like this. It's just so horrible, the sexual abuse, the child abuse that went on in Mayapur Gurukul. And Bhaktividya Purna Swami, he did homosexual pedophilia with the boys, and he had downline who also did the same. I mean, this is just horrific. I mean, the kind of abuse, it's just horrible. So, to call these people Goswamis is a complete insult to the entire sampradaya. And this is just the most grossest form of it. But there are others, like, for example, Radhanath Swami. He preaches some weird Mayavadi nonsense when he goes into public forums. There's no need of that. So is this disciple and few of his other disciples as well. They water down and present it in a secular way, you know, not staying true to their salt and just speaking some rubbish nonsense, taking in the name of preaching, we are doing indirect preaching, and eventually getting them to Krishna consciousness. This is rubbish. I mean, zero. Uh, what is that? Mention or support you can find of such activities in the Shastra. Zero. So this Goswami, when titles are given, when names are given, we have to really, pray to Prabhupada and Krishna how to live up to those names. You know, so these titles are not just ordinarily given. Now, if a person is Goswami, and then the guy is doing nonsense, I mean, even an ordinary karmi wouldn't do that, and then he still has to be mentioned as Goswami or Swami. I'm sorry. This is a good example. Like, let's go back. Who is this? Who is the one who? Sri Radharaman Goswami Bhattacharya refused the title Goswami because it is generally meant for sannyasis. I think that's a good example. Now, although this was a part of those sons sampradayas who did not follow Advaita Ācārya, they follow Smarta. But Radharaman Goswami Bhattacharya, when he was Grihastha, when he was Grihastha means it's a license for sense gratification. So there's a little bit of sense gratification involved. So when that is involved, Goswami is not a title that is appropriate for such a person. So everything has to be with qualification. Okay, if I get a doctorate without being a PhD or a medical doctor, then what is the meaning of the doctorate? I mean, I just invented something. There's no qualification. There's no nothing. It doesn't mean anything. So, and it conveys wrong idea to others. So this is very wrong. So everything has to be according to merit based. Even the title das. So in that means we have to behave like a das. That's the whole point, to imbibe into our psyche that we are actually a das. Dasa dasa anudasa. So apparently this Raghunandan has this horrible ritual where he burns a straw image of Advaita Ācārya in a Shraddha ceremony, thus acting like Rakshasas and disrespecting the Haribhakti Vilas, which is the guide for Vaishnavas. So we should avoid such nonsense literature. कमलाकांत विश्वास नाम आचार्य किंकर आचार्य व्यवहार सब ताहार गोचर. Advaita Acharya's very confidential servant named Kamalakant Vishwas knew all the dealings of Advaita Acharya. The name, we have actually read about Kamalakanta Vishwas and his Leela with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised Kamalakanta Vishwas, and Advaita Acharya was upset that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed him more affection than Advaita Acharya, because with affection only the chastisement comes. So why didn't you chastise me? Advaita Acharya went to argue with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why didn't you chastise me? Why did you chastise him? That means for you he is more closer to you than me. So in this way, that whole we have read about this, so I will not repeat here. The name Kamalananda. Oh, you see, here it is Kamalakanta, here it is Kamalananda. Okay, okay, it's actually by design. The name Kamalananda mentioned in Adilila 10.149 and the name Kamalakanta mentioned in the Madhyalila 10.94 both refer to the same man. Kamalakanta, a very confidential servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, born in a Brahmana family, engaged in the service of Sri Advaita Acharya as his secretary. When Paramananda Puri went from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri, he took Kamalakanta Vishwas with him, and they both went to see Lord Chaitanya at Jagannath Puri. It is mentioned in the Madhyalila 10.94 that one of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, the Brahmana Kamalakant, went from Paramananda Puri to Jagannath Puri. नीलाचले तेहो एक पत्रिका लिखिया प्रताप रुद्रेर पार्षद दिल पाठाया. When Kamalakanta Vishwas was in Jagannath Puri, he sent a note through someone to Maharaj Prataparudra. शे पत्रीर कथा आचार्य नाही जाने कौन पाके शे पत्रे आयल प्रभु स्थाने. No one knew of that note, but somehow or other it reached the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. शे पत्रिते लेखा आछे एटो लिखन ईश्वरत्वे आचार्य रे करिया छे स्थापन. That note established Advaita Acharya as an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. किंतु तार दैवे किछु हइया छे ऋण शोधिबारे चाहि ताकाशत. But it also mentioned that Advaita Acharya had recently incurred a debt of about 300 rupees that Kamalakanta Vishwas wanted to liquidate. In those days, 300 rupees is huge, huge. Like today's maybe lakhs or crores. 300 rupees is. पत्र पढ़िया प्रभुर मने होइल दुख बाहिरे हासिया किच्छु बोले चंद्रमुख. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became unhappy upon reading the note, although his smiling face still shone as brightly as the moon. Thus, smiling, he spoke as follows: Ācārya re sthapiya chhe koriya Ishwar, ithe dosha nahi Ācārya daivato Ishwar. He has established Advaita Ācārya as an incarnation of Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is nothing wrong in this, for he is indeed the Lord himself. Ishwarera dainya kore, Ishwarera dainya kore koriya chhe bhiksha, ataiva danda kore koraiva shiksha. But he has made the incarnation of Godhead a poverty-stricken beggar. Therefore, I shall punish him in order to correct him. Purport: to describe a man as an incarnation of God or Narayana, and at the same time present him as poverty-stricken is contradictory, and it is the greatest offense. The Mayavadi philosophers engaged in the missionary work of spoiling the Vedic culture by preaching that everyone is God describe a poverty-stricken man as Daridra Narayan or poor Narayan. This was done by Vivekananda and the Ramakrishna mission. Daridra Narayan. What nonsense is this? Narayan is the husband of goddess of fortune. Therefore, these people are not actually stalwart examples or teachers of our religion at all. We should not consider them. Many people consider them like that, even among Hindus, as if Vivekananda upheld in Hinduism. No, he's not. He did not. He was a confused soul. He has no brains. In fact, he ruined whatever was there. Many people still hold him in high esteem. We don't. And, you know, we can prove it. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never accepted such foolish and unauthorized ideas. He strictly warned, Mayavadi bhashya sunile hoy sarvanash. Anyone who follows the principles of Mayavad philosophy is certainly doomed. Such a fool needs to be reformed by punishment. Although it is contradictory to say that the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his incarnation is poverty stricken, we find in the revealed scriptures that when the Lord incarnated as Vamana, he begged some land from Maharaj Bali. Everyone knows, however, that Vamanadev was not at all poverty stricken. His begging from Maharaj Bali was a device to favor him. When Maharaj Bali actually gave the land, Vamanadev exhibited his all powerful position by covering the three worlds with three steps. One should not accept the so-called Daridra Narayanas as incarnations because they are completely unable to show the opulence of the genuine incarnations of God. Govindere आज्ञा दिलो इहाँ आजी होते बाउलिया विश्वासे एथा नादे भी आसिते. The Lord ordered Govinda, from today on, do not allow that Bauliya Kamalakant Vishwas to come here. Bauliya, the Mayavadi. Purport: the Bauliyas or Baulas are one of the 13 unauthorized sects that pass as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord ordered Govinda, his personal assistant, not to allow Kamalakant Vishwas to come into his presence because he had become a Bauliya. Thus, although the Baula Sampradaya, Aula Sampradaya, and Sahajya Sampradaya, as well as the Smartas, Jatagosais, Ativadis, Chudadharis, and Gauranganagaris claim to belong to the disciplic succession of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord actually rejected them. Aula, Baula, Sahajya, Smartas, Jatagosai, Ativadis, Chudadharis, Gauranganagaris. This has become 8. 5 more are there. दंड शुनि विश्वास होइल परम दुखित शुनिया प्रभुर दंड आचार्य हर्षित. When Kamalakant Vishwas heard about this punishment by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was very unhappy, but when Advaita Prabhu heard about it, he was greatly pleased. Oh, see? My reputation is brought back by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He fought for my reputation because he called me a beggar and I'm not. That's not the reason. Purport: in the Bhagavad Gita 9:29, the Lord says, Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshyosti na priyaha. I envy no one nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. The Supreme Personality of Godhead being equal to everyone, no one can be his enemy nor can anyone be his friend. Since everyone is a part or son of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord cannot be partial and regard someone as a friend and someone as an enemy. Thus, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu punished Kamalakant Vishwas by no longer allowing him to come into his presence, Although the punishment was actually very hard on him, Sri Advaita Prabhu, understanding the inner meaning of such punishment, was happy because he appreciated that the Lord had actually favored Kamalakanta Vishwas. Therefore, he was not at all unhappy. Devotees should always be happy with all the dealings of their master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See this? Devotees should always be happy with all the dealings of their master. A devotee may be put into difficulty or opulence, but he should accept both as gifts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and jubilantly engage in the service of the Lord in all circumstances. Jubilantly engage in the service of the Lord, no matter what the situation. This is how a devotee should think and behave. Yeah? Not that something happened and then he's all gone. Okay, I will not be in Krishna consciousness anymore. It's rubbish. विश्वा विश्वास रे कहे तुम्हें बड़ भाग्यवान तुम्हारे करिलो दंड प्रभु भाग्यवान. Seeing Kamalakanta Vishwas unhappy, Advaita Ācārya Prabhu told him, "You are greatly fortunate to have been punished by the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." So we are effectively repeating that story which we read before of Kamalakanta Vishwas. Purport. This is an authoritative judgment by Sri Advaita Prabhu. See, you are greatly fortunate to have been punished. It's very important. Actually, what is the विश्वासेर कहे तुम्हें बड़ भाग्यवान तुम्हारे करिल दंड प्रभु भगवान. सॉरी, नॉट भाग्यवान, भगवान. तुम्हारे करिल दंड प्रभु भगवान. Danda is a Bhagyavan. So, he clearly advises that one should not be unhappy when reverses come upon him by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A devotee should always be happy to receive the fortune awarded him by the Supreme Lord, which seems pleasant or unpleasant according to one's judgment. So, this is the thing. So, things happen this way or that way, but it should all be taken as Krishna's blessing. It actually is. It's not to be taken as. It always is. We only calculate this is good, this is bad, auspicious, inauspicious, but actually everything is auspicious. The only inauspicious thing is that we are not Krishna conscious or not Krishna conscious enough. So that is the only thing that is not proper. Because if we are Krishna conscious, then we will understand whether it is negative or a positive, seemingly positive or negative situation. It is all under the plan of the Lord. So eventually there is nothing that Krishna is not doing, whether it's directly or indirectly. And he knows why he is doing also. So a person can be judged by his mental condition, and his mental condition can be judged by his physical actions and language. What he speaks and what he does is a reflection of what is there in his mind. And what is there in his mind is a reflection of what association he is going through. So, when Krishna detects a certain offense in somebody's heart, then he will punish them by depriving them association or by even convincing them not to associate. Sometimes deprivation of association is meant to give you more encouragement, more craving for such association. So that is good. But if I am convinced that I should not be associating with authorized Vaishnavas, then that is my own misfortune. So I must evaluate everything and therefore come to conclusion that, Krishna, please save me, Prabhupada, please save me, devotees, please save me from this Maya which is attacking me. So we have to inspect ourselves, always inspect ourselves. the results don't really matter. If something is not going according to, some result is not coming, that absolutely doesn't matter. We have to just engage ourselves in Krishna's service. That is the most important, and full wholeheartedly. As much as our brain can be taxed, we have to tax the brain to serve Krishna. You should never take Krishna consciousness as very easy thing. No, it is a great fortune to be engaged in Krishna's service, and we have to use that. We have to do that with full what is that, involvement, full with full what enthusiasm. Yeah, that is a good word. So with full enthusiasm, we have to participate. We have to engage ourselves. So never mind what is the situation. Jubilantly, here, what is that? In the previous verse, I think he should jubilantly be engaged. पूर्वे महाप्रभु मोरे कोरे न सम्मान दुख पाए मने आमे कहलू अनुमान. Formerly, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always respected me as his senior, but I did not like such respect. Therefore, my mind being afflicted by unhappiness, I made a plan. You see how Advaita Ācārya is speaking to Kamalakanta Vishwas. So on one side, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chastised him that this person should not come into my presence anymore. And on the other side, Advaita Ācārya is giving the understanding. So these two things must be. So sometimes it so happens we can learn this. We can learn from this how to deal with Vaishnavas. So sometimes a Vaishnava may be strict with another Vaishnava to correct him. And I had to do this role for many devotees. So sometimes Prabhu will chastise someone. Okay? Sundar Gopal Prabhu. And that person sometimes doesn't understand the context. And I have to make him understand that how actually this chastisement is very good for you. Very good for you. Sometimes they do understand, sometimes they don't. But many times, most of the time, they did understand. So there has to be these things. How we manage relationships between Vaishnavas is an example here. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised him. Advaita Ācārya is pacifying him. And another time when Shivananda chastised, Nityananda Prabhu chastised Shivananda Sena, and his sons were a little bit disturbed, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pacified them. So, there is always this kind of behavior that should be seen, we should learn from, and we're managing devotees. And of course, sometimes they are completely out of thing and they cannot be helped, so we can't do much about them. But as far as possible, you should try to help. And you see, Advaita Ācārya, and the way sometimes people do it wrong. So when somebody strict devotee, somebody chastises someone, and then another devotee comes up and says, "Yeah, actually he chastised me also. He's not good. That's complete rubbish." Advaita Ācārya did not do that with Kamalakant. Yeah, you see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like that. Don't go to him. He's very very moody person. Sometimes you say yes, yes. Sometimes you say no, no. So I think better to stay away from it. Did he advise that kind of nonsense? He said, "You are greatly fortunate to have been punished." That is what he's saying. You're greatly fortunate. Punishment is fortune. And in fact, he is saying the other way. That Purve Mahaprabhu more koren samman. Dukkha pai mane ame kahilu anuman. Therefore, my mind being afflicted by unhappiness, I made a plan. Another example of is King Anga, whose son was Vena. Vena was completely a demon. So King Anga was a very saintly person. So unfortunately, his son became very demoniac, and he was killing even other children during his play when he was a kid. So he tried to punish him in so many ways, but it did not change much. And he tried to give him so much good advice and counsel, nothing changed. And eventually, he was thinking like this. I've shown this many times. It's good to show. So we should not be too perplexed by reversals. If we accept the plan of the Lord as all in all, we should not be too much worried about what is going to happen, what if this happens, what if that happens. Whatever happens is for your good. Because Krishna design, a devotee's life is in Krishna's hands. As long as he does not commit Vaishnava aparadh, he will be taken good care of. Of course, if he does Vaishnava aparadh, he will be punished by going in much lower into materialistic life, which eventually is also good for him because eventually he will be corrected in many lifetimes. But spiritual advancement will be hampered. But especially if one is following all the regulations, even if something bad happens, whether it is in the company of devotees or in the course of life, in any way, we have to accept it as Krishna's blessing. If we can't accept like this, we are not devotee, we are not learning anything here. These classes all are useless. Yeah. Classes all useless. We're learning this only how to think like a Vaishnava. Whether it happens in the company of Vaishnavas or somewhere else. Now here see, Kamalakanta Vishwas, his um, what is that unhappiness was caused in the association of not only just Vaishnava but because of the Lord. The Lord rejected him and he's now unhappy. So even here also there can be these things can happen even among devotees. Devotee may reject, don't come and see me anymore. That does not mean actually that don't come and see anymore. If I rectify my mistake and fully, sincerely, and even if there is seemingly no mistake, okay, I have done something which was unintentionally wrong. Maybe I did not intend, but unintentionally something I did. Okay, that's it. Very simple actually to resolve these problems if only we think like a Vaishnava. If only we take lessons from these and imbibe these qualities, or at least be guided by these qualities. Eventually, that's why we have to meditate on these pastimes, these things, so that we ingrain into our consciousness how to react to situations, how to deal with people in different situations among devotees, non-devotees, and not so advanced devotees. All these things we have to know how to deal. Otherwise, if we keep them in silos, oh, this is my shastric knowledge, this is my practical behavior, both are completely unrelated to each other, then I have nothing. I am not learning anything. Hmm. So these are enacted for a certain reason, and we have to learn those lessons. So now you see here, Anga. He says the king thought to himself, persons who have no son are certainly fortunate. I have a son because everybody wants a son. Uh, if they don't have, they feel not so happy. So they must have, he's saying persons who have no son are certainly fortunate. They must have worshipped the Lord in their previous lives so that they would not have to suffer the unbearable unhappiness caused by a bad son. So this is another example of, I think I showed this. I think there is a modern psychological term for this kind of thing. I forget the phrase, but it is that bad is better than good. Yeah? So here, good son is better than no son, right? No son is better than bad son. But bad son is better than good son. Good son is better than no son. No son is better than bad son. But bad son is better than good son. How come that? That is exactly this this thing by this thought by Maharaj Anga. You see, he says those who have no son, they must have worshipped the Lord because they don't have to suffer the unbearable unhappiness caused by a bad son. Then he says, then the king thought, a bad son is better than a good son. Because a good son creates an attachment for home, whereas a bad son does not. A bad son creates a hellish home from which an intelligent man naturally becomes very easily detached. And that detachment is the real nivrittistu mahaphala pravrittiresha bhutanam. So this nivritti marga, this anything that causes detachment from the material world and will give an impetus towards our spiritual growth is certainly welcome, because that is the aim of human life. Human life is not meant for having a nice santan, a nice family, everybody obedient, and wife very beautiful, sons obedient, and everything nice. This is an illusion. That's an illusion. So-called prosperity is a curse. It's a curse. And therefore, the example that Karmi was giving, some psychological, in psychology, he's saying that if you have to go 700 meters away, you would walk maybe, okay, let's take a walk. It's an exercise also, 700 meters walk. But if it's 3 kilometers, you may drive or ride a motorcycle or something like that. So the paradox is that you will reach the farther place quicker than the nearer place. Because with a motorbike or a car, I can reach the 3 kilometers place quicker than I can reach the 700 meters. So the farther it is, the more effort needs to be taken. So we will take more help from whatever resources we have to get there faster. So that's an example where a disadvantageous position will propel us much farther than an advantageous position. So in that case, the disadvantage becomes a greater advantage than the advantage. You understand? So um, this is always the case. This is always the case. Like even the Goswamis or any Ācārya, they take sannyas. Why? People don't like, how I'm not with my family, I'm alone. But they are prepared to take all hardships so that they can fully focus now. And if a grihastha is somehow or other, you know, ejected from grihastha ashram and he can go into sannyas ashram, that is good, no? Whatever it is the circumstance. Like that's why Prabhupada condemned one of his god brothers who was made into a guru after the departure of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So that devotee, he was a grihastha. And he was a guru, and another sannyasi, he was also guru. These two big people became gurus after Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Gaudiya Math. Now, that grihastha devotee was a great manager, expert manager. He coordinated the preaching efforts in a great way during the presence of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But what happened was, his wife turned out to be a very, very uh, unchaste woman. So once his son, who was in his teenage, who was in his teens, he found out that his mother was having an illicit affair with someone, and it was not just one man. She used to have with other men also. She was basically like a prostitute, but even the husband did not know about it. And so once the child detected something, and then he said, "I will tell the father." Then she murdered the child, her own son, and then she killed herself, because how is she going to face law and her husband and society? Her thing finish. How can she even live anymore, right? So she killed herself. So all this while, the husband, the devotee, the so-called guru, was in the temple and all that. And when he came in the evening, morning he left the house to the temple. His family was intact. When he came back, family was finished within a day. And of course, the news came to him, and he rushed home, and then he saw family dead. And he came to know that this is what happened. Then he could not take that shock, and he committed suicide. Prabhupada, of course, you see, for a materialist, if a materialist hears the story, wow, that is very pitiful. I can understand, I can understand the pain that he's going through. Prabhupada said, foolish, foolish. That was the ripe situation for him to take sannyas. Because Maya left him in a day. If you want to even give up, on on this Maya, you cannot. Yeah? But Krishna removed all that in a day for him. No, it's not the best way that it can happen, but it doesn't matter. Whatever it has happened, that's what matters. Hmm. So unfortunate, yes. It would have been fortunate if they were devotees and eventually something. But if he had a bad wife and maybe a good son, but who's lost, yeah, it is certainly painful. We're not denying. But that pain eventually, he has to make up his mind with shastric knowledge, whatever he has learned, and use it to propel his spiritual life into sannyas. But you see how it became counterproductive for him, and he committed suicide because of that. There was somebody shared a joke. So what happened? One couple, it seems they went to Jerusalem. This is some Abrahamic, I think Christians or you know, whatever, Jew or whatever. So now they went to Jerusalem. It's a holy place for a like a pilgrimage kind of thing, and they are from United States, Texas, something. Now I don't know whether it's a real story or not. It's a joke. So they were from United States, Texas. So they went to Jerusalem and went there and all that. And somehow the wife, some sudden thing happened and she died there. And so they were saying that he wanted to take the body back to Texas and cremate there and all that. So the religious people, I mean the priest, clergy, they were saying that it's very holy that at least she died. Unfortunately, she died suddenly like that, but she died in you know Jerusalem, and it's a very holy place. And so if we can do the cremation here, you don't have to take the body there, and you have to spend a lot of money to take the body there and all that. You can save up on money, and you can also do it in a holy place here, cremation. Then he thought for a while and said, "No, I'm going to take back to Texas." They asked, "Why? Like everything is against you. You have to spend so much money, and it's a holy place. Why don't you go anywhere else?" And she passed away in a holy place. Everything is like, you know. He says, in Texas, the dead stay dead. In Texas, the dead stay dead. So it means that they won't resurrect, like what happened with Jesus. So I don't want my wife to resurrect. So, so that was the thing. But apart from that, jokes aside, um, we have to understand that this kind of death or anything, these are seemingly very traumatic experiences, but only they will be traumatic if we are not spiritually um, advanced. If we don't, while we were comfortable, when there was no traumatic incident in our lives, at that time when if we don't take Krishna consciousness seriously, then when it happens we cannot handle. So therefore we have to take Krishna consciousness seriously now, so when the tests come we can easily yasmin sthito na dukkhena gurunapi vicharyate. Yam labdhva chaparam labham manyate na adhikam tatah. So what is the meaning of this verse then? I mean, Krishna consciousness is a state in which even the most heinous situation can be easily overcome just with Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it's insurmountable. But with Krishna consciousness, easily it can be done. So, this kind of chastisement or a reversal in life, um, it's all to be taken as Krishna's mercy. Whatever happens is Krishna's mercy. He knows what is happening. Yes. Let's see them. Kadapatyam varam manye sadapatyachucham padat. Kadapatyam means bad son, sadapatyat, then a good son. Varam manye sadapatyat, शुचां पदात् निर्विद्येत गृहात् मर्त्यः यत् क्लेशनिवहाः गृहाः क्लेशनिवहाः. Very nice. कदपत्यं वरं मन्ये सदपत्यात् शुचां पदात्. Very nice. So, okay. So formally Lord Chaitanya, see, Advaita Ācārya is now pacifying him in this way. Formerly, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always respected me as his senior, but I did not like such respect. You see, I did not like such respect. Therefore, my mind being afflicted by unhappiness, I made a plan. मुक्ति श्रेष्ठ करे कैनो वासिष्ठ व्याख्यान क्रुद्ध हैया प्रभु मोरे कोइलो अपमान. Thus I expounded the Yoga Vasishtha, which considers liberation the ultimate goal of life. For this, the Lord became angry at me and treated me with apparent disrespect. Purport. There is a book of the name Yoga Vasishtha that Mayavadis greatly favor because it is full of impersonal understandings regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead with no touch of Vaishnavism. Factually, all Vaishnavas should avoid such a book, but Advaita Ācārya Prabhu, wanting punishment from the Lord, began to support the impersonal statements of the Yoga Vasishtha. Thus, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became extremely angry at him and seemingly treated him disrespectfully. दंड पाया होइलो मोर परम आनंद जय दंड पाइलो भाग्यवान Shri Mukunda. When chastised by Lord Chaitanya, I was very happy to receive punishment similar to that awarded Shri Mukunda. Purport. Shri Mukunda, a great friend and associate of Lord Chaitanya, used to visit many places where people were against the Vaishnava cult. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to know of this, he punished Mukunda, forbidding him to see him again. Although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was soft like a flower, he was also strict like a thunderbolt. And everyone was afraid to allow Mukunda to come again into the presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mukunda, therefore, being very sorry, asked his friends whether he could one day be allowed to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When the devotees brought this inquiry to Lord Chaitanya, the Lord replied, Mukunda will get permission to see me after many millions of years. When they gave this information to Mukunda, he danced with jubilation, and when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard that Mukunda was so patiently waiting to meet him after millions of years, he immediately asked him to return. This is exactly like that Shuchi and Muchi, the cobbler and the Brahmana story, where the cobbler was told that, you have as many lives in this material world as the leaves on this banyan tree under which you are sitting and doing your cobbler work. And banyan leaves are very small, and there are millions of leaves on a tree. Then the cobbler started dancing in ecstasy. Oh, that means actually the Lord is considering to take me back. I never thought that he would be taking me as a sinful soul like me. So he was dancing for that. And then eventually all the leaves fell and only one leaf was remaining on the tree. And that means he was going back after this life. So similarly, this thing happened with Mukunda. There is a statement about this punishment of Mukunda in the Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Kanda, chapter 10. जय दंड पायलो श्री सचि भाग्यवती से दंड prasad anya लोक पावे कति. A similar punishment was awarded to Mother Sachi Devi, who could be more fortunate than she to receive such punishment. See, so he is glorifying that, oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu punished me also, and I felt happy. And he even punished his own mother. That means, of course, he loves his mother, of course, he loves me, and he punished us. And therefore, you are punished, this is also out of love. Of course, in one case, in Chota Haridas, he never accepted. Even then, it was love. Of course, he was chanting, singing for him as a Gandharva in a transcendental body after his death. But apart from that, externally, he did not accept. He committed suicide, the Chota Haridas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, that's very good. So hard. In other cases, okay, you come back. But he became so hard with him. Even after he committed suicide, he still did not melt. That is to show how strict we must be with our, especially as a sannyas. Chota Haridas was a sannyas. And here we have ISKCON sannyasis taking sannyas and doing pedophilia. So, just see. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did that to Chota Haridas only to teach people like this who do anything and everything, and all kinds of nonsense in the name of Krishna consciousness. Mother Shachi Devi was similarly punished as mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhyakhanda chapter 22. Mother Shachi Devi, apparently showing her feminine nature, accused Advaita Prabhu of encouraging her son to become a sannyasi. So, females, women, they like to blame others. And they don't admit their mistakes easily. And anything that comes in the way of their attachment, they will, blame something that caused some detachment or some separation. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to take sannyas, then as a mother, she could not bear that, and she accused Advaita Ācārya that saying that he encouraged Chaitanya Mahaprabhu take sannyas, and in that way taking him away from me. So that was her position. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, taking this accusation as an offense, asked Sachidevi to touch the lotus feet of Advaita Ācārya to mitigate the offense she had supposedly committed. And then, of course, she did that. Eta kohi Ācārya tare koriya ashvasa anandita hoya oilo Mahaprabhu pasha. After pacifying Kamalakanta Vishwas in this way, Sri Advaita Ācārya Prabhu went to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. प्रभु के कहे न तुम्हार ना बुझिए लीला आमा होते प्रसाद पात्र करेला कमला. Sri Advaita Acharya told Lord Chaitanya, I cannot understand your transcendental pastime. See, on one side he said, as if he understood Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he pacified Kamalakanta Vishwas. And then he went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, I don't understand what you're doing here. I cannot understand your transcendental pastimes. You have shown more favor to Kamalakanta than you generally show to me. आमारे हक कभुजे ना होए प्रसाद तुम्हारो चरणे आमी की कोई नु अपराध. The favor you have shown Kamalakanta is so great that even to me you have never shown such favor. What offense have I committed at your lotus feet so as not to be shown such favor? Purport. This is a reference to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's former punishment of Advaita Ācārya. When Advaita Ācārya Prabhu was reading Yoga Vasishtha, Lord Chaitanya beat him. But he never told him not to come into his presence. But Kamalakanta was punished with the order never to come into the Lord's presence. Therefore, Sri Advaita Ācārya Prabhu wanted to impress upon Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he had shown more favor to Kamalakanta Vishwas because he had prohibited Kamalakanta from seeing him, whereas he had not done so to Advaita Ācārya. Therefore, the favor shown Kamalakanta Vishwas was greater than that shown Advaita Ācārya. Now, this separation causes Vipralambha Bhava, which is higher than even Sambhoga. And if we read Ramananda Samvad, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda were having a discussion, Ramananda Rai states the highest as even among the gopis, higher than the gopis he asks, then Vipralambha is the only thing. So, of course, the gopis highest, they have Vipralambha. So that is the highest. So that is the point. So not allowing him into presence, that means he will become more and more intense in his feelings for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that is, in a way, blessing, right? What is that? Sangama viraha vikalpe varamiha viraho nasangamantasya ekasya eva sange tribhuvanamapi tanmayam virahe. Padyavali, 240th verse, which states that between meeting Krishna and separating from Krishna, separation is better because if I meet Krishna, I can see him only in one place in front of me. But when he is not there in front of me, then I see everywhere Krishna. So I want to see many Krishnas everywhere. Everywhere I see, I want to see Krishna. So therefore, that is better. So एता शुनि महाप्रभु हासिते लागिला बोला या कमला कांते प्रसन्न होइला. Hearing this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu laughed with satisfaction and immediately called Kamalakanta Vishwas. Ācārya कहे इहा के केन दिले दर्शन दुई प्रकारे ते करे मोरे विडंबन दुई प्रकारे ते करे मोरे विडंबन. Advaita Ācārya then said to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, "Why have you called back this man and allowed him to see you? He has cheated me in two ways." Now that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called him back, now Advaita Ācārya is saying, "Why have you called him back? He has cheated me in two ways." सुनिया प्रभुर मन प्रसन्न होइला दुहार अंतर कथा दुहे दुहे से जानिला दुहार अंतर katha दुहे से जानिला. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this, his mind was satisfied. Only they could understand each other's minds. प्रभु को है बावलिया आए छे काहे कार आचार्य लज्जा धर्म हानि से आचार प्रभु को है बावलिया आए छे काहे कर Ācārya lajja dharma hani se āchar. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Kamalakant, "You are a Bauliya, one who does not know things as they are. Why do you act in this way? Why do you invade the privacy of Advaita Ācārya and damage his religious principles?" Privacy or lajja, reputation, or Purport. Kamalakanta Vishwas, out of his ignorance, asked the king of Jagannathpuri Maharaj Prataprudra to liquidate the 300 rupee debt of Advaita Ācārya, but at the same time he established Advaita Ācārya as an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is contradictory. An incarnation of the Supreme Godhead cannot be indebted to anyone in this material world. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is never satisfied by such a contradiction, which is technically called rasabhas, or overlapping of one humor or rasa with another. This is the same type of idea as the contradiction that Narayan is poverty stricken or Daridra Narayan. प्रतिग्रह कभु ना करि बेराजधन विषय अन्न खाइले दुष्ट होय मन. Advaita Ācārya, my spiritual master, should never accept charity from rich men or kings, because if a spiritual master accepts money or grains from such materialists, his mind becomes polluted. Now, there is an interesting thing in this verse. Vishayra anna khaile dushta hoy man. Pratigraha kabhu na koribe rajadhan. This is very important. So here, dhana and anna are kind of used synonymously. Now, Vishayra anna khaile, by eating the food of materialists, dushta hoy man. Now we know this verse in Madhyalila 6.278 and 279. Do you know? Or should I show you? I think some people don't know. So I will show you. Some are new here. Hmm, 298, 278, right? Antya, okay. Antya 2.78, 6.278. विषयरा अन्न खाइले मलिन होय मन होय नाहे कृष्ण स्मरण. When one eats food offered by a materialistic man, one's mind becomes contaminated, and when the mind is contaminated, one is unable to think of Krishna properly. So this is not only for food. Now next one. Vishayra anna hoy rajas nimantran data bhokta duhar malin hoy man. When one accepts an invitation from a person contaminated by the material mode of passion, the person who offers the food and the person who accepts it are both mentally contaminated. Now, here, Vishayra anna khaile dushta hoy man. Pratigraha kabhu na koribe rajadhan. Money or charity or a gift, we should never accept from a materialistic political man. Because Prataprudra was a king and all that. But of course, he's a devotee, but he's showing us another lesson. Okay? That from materialists we should not accept anything, especially for our personal thing. For Krishna, yes, all by all means. But for us, no. So Pratigraha, Where else can you find this word? Dana pratigraha. Dadati pratigrahanati. गुह्यमाख्याति पृच्छति भुंक्ते भोजयते चैव षड्विधम प्रीति लक्षणम. This प्रीति लक्षणम is the thing. Why this anna and dhana are, connected? Why this food and wealth is connected? How come? Because the main thing is we are forging a preeti, a friendship, an affection for that person by 6 things. What are the 6 things? In Singapore, this is 6. 5, 6, 1. For some reason, I got used to this way of counting here. With one hand to show 6 is like that. So 7 is that because it's like a 7. So, and 8 just because 7 plus 1. So they have a weird counting. Anyway. So 6 things. What are the 6 things? So this is NOI, nectar of instruction. 4. Dadati gives charity. Pratigrahanati accepts in return. Accepts return. Charity. Guhyam means accepting gifts and giving gifts. Guhyam, confidential topics. Ācārya explains. So explaining confidential things is Priti Lakshanam. Now we are having class and you are attending. So this is association. Association means we learn something from that person. So that is association. When we learn something and hear and then, so that is association. That is Priti. Prichhati, also inquiring from such person. And bhunkte eats and bhojayate feeds, make him eat. Chaiva Shadvidham, 6 kinds of Preeti Lakshanam, the symptoms of love. Offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind in confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad and offering prasad are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. Now, this is shared by one devotee and another is not mentioned in this verse. But because this is an act of instruction, it is for devotees. But if we do the same thing with any others, then we are associating this karanam gunasanga. What we are actually doing is gunasanga. The qualities. When we are associating with a person, we are imbibing his qualities as well. And those qualities, if we associate with a person intoxicated by wealth and a very materialistic person, then we will get. So whether we eat food or whether we accept gift, it is called Preeti Lakshanam. It is association. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he explains, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained in his commentary on the nectar of instruction, which is called, I forgot the name. So, Atyahara. What is Atyahara? Overeating or too much collecting funds and for personal gain. For Krishna conscious, we need unlimited funds, honestly. Because the whole world had to be made Krishna conscious. We should never, at any time, think that this verse is applicable to devotees who are for missionary spirit. For Krishna's sake, oh, we should not ask too much money. No, we should ask. We have so many projects to do. All the money in this world is not enough for Krishna's service. We need unlimited money. So we should never think that this is applicable for devotees who are running missionary activities. So atyahara, overeating or too much collection, and especially from questionable sources. Who is questionable? Not just in the legal framework, because the legal framework is imperfect. Oh, somebody who is maybe got their money from fraud, I don't accept. No. Questionable background means what is his guna? Somebody who is in the rajas and tamasic, we don't accept, especially for our own. For Krishna, yes, from everybody we should accept. Everybody is a thief. They're taking Krishna's property and enjoying, so we have to return the money back to Krishna. That is there. And use it in his service and therefore purify them also who have given. Now, atyahara is too much accumulation for personal thing and overeating. Ahara is all not only for food but anything accumulation. So From all these angles, we can understand that this verse is this very instructive verse. Pratigraha kabhu na ko ribe rajathan vishaira anna khale dushta hoy man. So this is very, very. Actually, we should, memorize this verse. Advaita Ācārya, my spiritual master, should never accept charity from rich men or kings, because if a spiritual master accepts money or grains from such materialists, his mind becomes polluted. Purport: it is very risky to accept money or food from materialistic persons. For such acceptance pollutes the mind of the charity's recipient. According to the Vedic system, one should give charity to sannyasis and brahmanas, because one who thus gives charity becomes free from sinful activities. Formally, therefore, brahmanas would not accept charity from a person unless he were very pious. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this instruction for all spiritual masters. Materialistic persons who are not inclined to give up their sinful activities like illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating sometimes want to become our disciples, but unlike professional spiritual masters who accept disciples regardless of their condition, Vaishnavas do not accept such cheap disciples. One must at least agree to abide by the rules and regulations for a disciple before a Vaishnava Acharya can accept him. In fact, a Vaishnava should not even accept charity or food from persons who do not follow the rules and regulations of the Vaishnava scriptures. So, this is the injunction. I think this should be added. Adilila 12.50 should be added to the Antya 6.278.279, because here the added aspect is the money. There it's about food and invitations, but here is about money. So Adi 12.50 is a good, verse. मनदुष्ट होइलो नहे कृष्णेर स्मरण कृष्ण स्मृति विनु होय निष्फल जीवन. This is also very nice. 1250 and 1251. Same thing what he said in the, 6 6.278. So when one's mind is polluted, it is very difficult to remember Krishna. And when remembrance of Krishna, Lord Krishna, is hampered, one's life is unproductive. Krishna smriti vinu hoy nishphala jivan. Unproductive. Purport: a devotee should always be alert, keeping his mind in a sanguine state, so that he can always remember the Lord Sri Krishna. The Shastras state, Smartavyah Satatam Vishnu. In devotional life, one should always remember Lord Vishnu. Srila Sukadeva Goswami also advised Maharaj Parikshit, Smartavyo Nityashaha. In the second canto, first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami advised Parikshit Maharaj, Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Harihim Shrotavyah Kirtitavyascha Smartavyascha Bhayam. O descendant of King Bharata, one who desires to be free from all miseries must hear about, glorify, and also remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who is, Godhead, who is the Super Soul, the controller and the savior from all miseries. Bhagavatam 2.1.5. This is a summary of all the activities of a Vaishnava, and the same instruction is repeated here. Krishna Smriti Vinu Hoy Nishphala Jivan. Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyascha Bhayam. So Srila Rupa Goswami states in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Avyartha Kalatvam, CC Madhya 23.18 and 19. A Vaishnava must be very alert not to waste even a second of his valuable lifetime. This is a symptom of a Vaishnava. But association with pounds and shillings men or Vishayis, materialists who are simply interested in sense gratification, pollutes one's mind and hampers such continuous remembrance of Lord Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised Asatsanga Tyag, a Vaishnava Ācārya. A Vaishnava should behave in such a way as to never associate with non-devotees or materialists. CC Madhya 22.87. One can avoid such association simply by always remembering Krishna within his heart. Satsanga Tyaga A Vaishnava Ācārya. So the Sangha is in the 6 ways. Vrajeshwari Mataji asking, Prabhuji, how about servant cooking the food in Vaishnava's house? Now that servant has to be at least chanting. If they chant, at least it's okay. They should chant. Of course, best is if you can cook. If they are cooking, they should also be chanting and make them devotee. लोक लज्जा होय धर्म कीर्ति होय हानि ऐच्छे कर्म ना करे हो कभू इहा जानी. See, धर्म कीर्ति होय हानि, लोक लज्जा होय, धर्म कीर्ति होय हानि. This is important. ऐच्छे कर्म ना करे हो कभू इहा जानी. Wow, this is so important. Because 234, he says, Akirtim chapa bhutani, kathayishanti te vyam, sambhavitasya chakirtir maranadatirichyate. Oh, Arjuna, if you don't fight, Krishna is saying, that then everybody will, what do you say, your reputation as a great fighter will be lost. And everybody will accuse you of running away from the battlefield, and they will call you a coward, and they will call you like a woman or a eunuch or all these words. This is a great loss of your reputation. So, what are you doing? So now, we always say devotees mana, apaman, ninda, stuti, tulya ninda, stutir mauni. So we say all these things, whether in ninda or stuti, whether in praise or insult, one should be equal. But why then Krishna is offering the argument that, hey, they will insult you, they will not praise you? So here, loka lajja hoy, dharma kirti hoy hani. So the reputation of religion becomes damaged by your unpopularity, because Kshatriya dharma, you are actually deviating from your dharma, and then you are giving an example or a precedence for others to follow and do the same thing in their lives. So you have to fight, Arjuna. Now I have good words to quote in that connection then. Dharma kirti hoy hani. Thus one becomes unpopular in the eyes of the people in general, and for this damages his religiosity and fame. A Vaishnava, especially one who acts as a spiritual master, must not act in such a way. One should always be conscious of this fact. So this is important, dharma kirti. So if people want to come and have respect for our movement, then we have to conduct ourselves according to the regulations and rules prescribed in our movement. Now, there is a fine line here we should be very careful of. Just so that our movement should not get a bad name, we should not go and follow the rules and regulations of the materialists. We should stand by what we are doing. So we walk our talk. But if just to satisfy the materialistic people, if we follow the materialistic kind of mannerisms, or speak like they want us to speak and not tell the truth, just so that they are appeased, don't ever think that that is the same as this. Now, because there will be many people who will condemn, Now you see there is one question that, oh, wow, how come, children are leaving the families, is that right thing to do? So now in ordinary society, that's not a right thing. And in moral principles also, it is not a right thing. But for higher considerations of spiritual advancement, one has to do it. All our acharyas have done it. You mean to say they were all wrong? Huh? So this is, so they will always complain. And when Narad Muni was preaching to Daksha's sons, and he made 11,000 of his sons into sannyasis and liberated them, Daksha was very angry. I've given you 11,000 sons, not one son, two sons, 10 sons, 100 sons, 1,000 sons, 11,000 sons. And all of them you have liberated them. I want to create progeny in this world. I want to create children and dynasties. So he became angry with Narad Muni and he accused Narad Muni of following irreligion. And he positioned himself as if he is a greater knower of religious principles than Narad Muni himself. So these kind of accusations will always be there. But it should be judged on Shastric viewpoint, on what is correct or wrong. Now, of course, people should be made to understand what this means. For example, a soldier leaves the family and goes to the border. He has a family, he has a wife, and he leaves and goes. And people praise, oh, he has sacrificed his family happiness for the country. Now, then what to speak of God then? God is greater than any country. And every country belongs to God. And such a person who has surrendered to Krishna, he is working for the welfare of the whole bigger family of Krishna. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The whole world is one family. Krishna says, Aham Bija Pradapita, Sarva Yonishu Kaunteya. Of all species, I am the father. So, but the children, all the species here, they have forgotten that Krishna is their father, and so he works in society in order to remind them of that relationship with Krishna. And that is the highest sacrifice a person can take, can do. And Krishna is completely in approval of that. He himself did it. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took sannyas. When his wife was only 16 years old, he was 24, he took sannyas. At the behest of his, of course, Advaita Ācārya and everybody. He took sannyas. And he saw, people were, offending him, not understanding his position. So, in order to save them, he took sannyas, so that a sannyas, everybody has to respect sannyasi. So, in that way, they will have to respect. So, somehow or other, bring them under his fold. So, but he did it. Every Ācārya did it. Prabhupada did it. Ramanujacharya did it. Shankaracharya did it. Everybody did it. So we should see by those examples, not some emotional outpourings of a mother who will always cry when a son leaves. That's natural. We cannot take those as the ultimate um, what is that benchmark of criterion of deciding whether I'm right or wrong just because of the tears of a mother. You know, she has to be educated, and that's all. And sometimes education also doesn't work because all logic will fail when you speak to a woman who is emotionally charged. So the best way is to just stay apart, and eventually she will get to understand. And with a cool head, that time you can explain. That's how it works with women. What to do? So এই শিক্ষা সভা কারে সবে মনে কইল আচার্য গোসাই মনে আনন্দ পাইল. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave this instruction to Kamalakanta, all present considered it to be meant for everyone. Thus Advaita Ācārya was greatly pleased. Now, everyone who was present there, they all considered it to be meant for everyone, not only for Kamalakanta. And that is the thing. Whenever Krishna or his devotees they speak, when they speak for one, speak to one, it has universal application. That is the beauty of our teachings, and they are universally applicable. Bhagavad Gita, he only spoke to Arjuna, but it is applicable to everyone. So that is always the case with the Lord and his pure devotees. Of course, when Prabhupada he wrote special letters, to certain of his disciples, where there was some seeming compromise with the principle, like he allowed one divorce of one of his disciples, and he told his Tushta Krishna Swami in Hawaii that don't initiate disciples now, wait for the disappearance of the spiritual master, and then after that you can accept disciples. But actually, that's not the law. That's a concession given to him, so at least he stops his initiating and committing even more offense during the manifest presence of Srila Prabhupada. So to save him from that, he told like that. But that's not the law. That the moment the spiritual master leaves, you can initiate now. That's not the law. Although Prabhupada says in that letter that this is the law of disciplic succession. The law is that you should not initiate in the presence of your spiritual master. But in fact, even that also, it has been done before. Even in the presence of a spiritual master, physical presence. But the thing is that Shamananda Goswami, his disciple was Rasikananda. And Rasikananda was initiating well in the presence of Shamananda Pandit, but not while he was there. Shamananda Pandit used to be in another area and he used to be in another area, completely miles apart, hundreds or even thousands of miles apart. And then there used to be initiation. Not that everybody he brought to Shamananda Pandit. And that is an agreement between Shamananda Pandit to Rasikananda, we don't know. But that was done before. It's not that it was never done. Narad Muni is alive, Brahma is also alive, Vyasadeva is also alive. So in their physical presence, it is still going on, and the acharyas are coming. That is because at the moment at this area, Prabhupada is the one who is preaching to us, and his books are quite clear and everything. We cannot access Narad Muni and get knowledge from him at the present moment. Although he gave all these things, we can understand it through the Ācārya. Only we can have access to Narad Muni. Now, of course, Shiksha disciples are also necessary. Therefore, at the physical level, then everybody gets a proper association in a temple setting. That's the system laid out by Prabhupada. So as long as we follow, we have no dearth of sufficient guidance in spiritual life. So anyway, whatever the acharyas and Krishna says, it's for everyone always. That's why we are reading histories. There is a nice definition of history that Sanatana Goswami quotes in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita 2.1.110 in that commentary. Dharmartha kama mokshanam upadesha samanvitam purvavritta kathayuktam itihasam prachakshate. What is an itihas? Of course, itihas means history. Itiha asa. Does it happen in the past? That is the meaning of itihas. Now, anything is a history, right? What I did maybe 20 years ago is also history. But that's not a very significant history. So what kind of histories are captured in Vedic literature or such smritis? Dharmartha kama mokshanam upadesha samanvitam. So there are advice. Those histories which are filled with advice of religious principles and artha, kama, moksha, economic development and sense gratification. What is it? Regulated sense gratification and liberation. And of course, even higher than that is prema, which is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, love of Godhead, that is higher. But that is also under the bracket of moksha, because moksha is a superset and bhakti is a subset of moksha. Bhakti is a specialized moksha, which is moksha laghuta krit. When you get bhakti, moksha is insignificant. But that is also within the gamut of moksha. So anyway, dharmartha kama mokshanam upadesha samanvitam purvavritta katha yuktam itihasam prachakshate. So the historical incidences, the narration of historical incidences which are imbued with sufficient, I mean, the instructions on dharma, artha, kama, moksha, that is called an itihas. So, in all this history of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Ramayana, all the Puranas, the advice is that one should become a devotee of Krishna. That is the ultimate advice of all. So, unless it is applicable for everyone, it would not have been recorded in history because Upadesha Samanvitam. It is meant for everyone. It is meant to advise everyone and guide everyone, instruct everyone. So Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, but no, for everyone. Why everybody studies then? It was just a dialogue between two people and they talk something and chit chatting before the war, just waiting for the conch shells to blow. Then it's just no. They spoke something which was for universal application. So Upadesha Samanvitam, that is itihas. आचार्यर अभिप्राय प्रभु मात्र बुझे प्रभुर गंभीर वाक्य आचार्य समुझे. Only Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could understand the intentions of Advaita Ācārya, and Advaita Ācārya appreciated the grave instruction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. एट प्रस्तावे आछे बहुत विचार ग्रंथ बाहुल्य भये नारी लिखिबार. In this statement, there are many confidential considerations. I do not write them all, fearing an unnecessary increase in the volume of the book. I would have liked if the book volume actually increased and all those confidential intricacies explained. Anyway, if we have faith in the spiritual master and Krishna, then all these things will be revealed. Whatever else was there. It would have been nice, of course, but he chose not to disclose. So we accepted that. Shri Yadunandana-Ācārya Advaita Shakha Tar Shakha Upashakhar Nahi Hoye Lekha. So there are so many questions in the comment section, but I'll get to them after this session. What is the time now? Oh, 10:10. Oh. Okay, maybe I'll actually get to the questions. Because I did not notice at all. Okay. Okay, so I think we'll stop it here until 55. We did. So 13 to 55. That's a lot of verses today, actually. Okay, so let's go to the comment section and answer any questions that are there. Harish, knowledge can't be more than sadhu. Sadhu must be at top. No, Shastra is the base. Okay, but of course, Shastra you can only understand by an Ācārya. So they all go hand in hand. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. Karmi, Jnani, Yogi, all are rascals. It's an open declaration. Yes, but that's not the way we present it to them. We understand they're rascals, but we have to win them over. No? We have to first of all explain to them why rascals, yes, but we are not here to condemn them. We're calling them rascals to educate them, or to. So we have to approach it with a compassionate mood than just rattling away and then unless they argue, of course, it's a different thing. But we don't approach a karmi audience. A karmi is rascals. We're all rascals. That's not how we approach. We know they're rascals, but I was also rascal, right? I was also karmi. So we were, corrected and we become devotees. So when we approach others, we can talk in civil language and tell them. And of course, if they argue, yeah, you must show them they're rascal. Like, whatever they're doing is rascaldom. So we should expose their rascaldom in a way that they can understand. Please provide knowledge in Hindi. Okay, I'm not so proficient in Hindi. Maybe over time I will learn more. At the moment, I'm not. Anyway, somebody else can do that service also. Why everything I must do? Huh? Others also should get chance to serve. What is Sanatan Dharma means? Well, I'm not here to answer any and every of your question. Please ask according to the topic. Please answer, Prabhuji. Don't. This is something I don't like. Don't pester. You leave it at the comment section and wait. When the time comes to answer, we will answer. There's a proper way to do it. Don't keep pestering and putting so many comments like that. That's not the way to go about it. Listen to the class. That is more important. I'm Junu from Junagadh, Gujarat. My mother just only called me Hare. See, telling unnecessary things. Please be brief and just ask the question that needs to be asked. You must know how to behave properly in public forums. I don't know what you have learned. Sometimes it's just irritating. Mm. Jai Sri Ram is asking, why is there so much hatred of smartas when Mahaprabhu encouraged people to follow the Smriti Shastra? So in Smriti Shastra, there is smartas are those who follow only until what is this? Uh, Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadant avipaschitah vedavadarataah parthan nanyadastiti vadinah कामात्मानः स्वर्गपरां जन्मकर्मफलप्रदां क्रियाविशेषबहुलां भोगैश्वर्यगतिं प्रति 242 and 43. That means those who think that following Vedas is only for attaining some heavenly happiness, karma kandis, they are called smartas. And they are into this, you know, rules and regulations, but they do forget the aim. So, Vedavadarata, they are also called Vedavadarata. Such people we cannot follow. They are into all karma kanda stuff. They leave devotional service. So, but Mahaprabhu's Smriti, what he is asking us to do. He is asking us to read Srimad Bhagavatam. Hmm. Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanam Amalam. That is the doctrine of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Pramanam Amalam Bhagavatam. That is the Bhagavad Gita Bhagavatam. This is the Smriti that we have to learn. Smartha means people who follow the Smriti Shastra, but now it usually denotes those who do so in a non-sectarian manner. By the way, I'm a non-Brahmana. See, it's not about non-sectarian. Don't bring Western words as sectarian or non-sectarian. It doesn't mean any damn thing in our culture. So, sectarian, secular, all these things. Now, Smriti Shastra, not just sectarian as like division of castes, but um, just to be interested in the materialistic rituals. That is smart. Just like Vedavadarata, the word sounds like they are very attached to the Vedas, but they are actually only attached to the flowery portions of the Vedas, which is Karma Kanda. So similarly, Smartas are not people who are attached to the ultimate Smarta, which is Smriti, which is Bhagavatam. No, they are attached to Smriti Shastra, which encourages them to attain heavenly happiness. That kind of. So they are equal with Vedavadarata. They are not very advanced in spiritual understanding. Whatever happens, devotee can practice Krishna consciousness. It is an opportunity. Yes. Aman Rathod asking me 4 times, can you speak in Hindi? Okay, just because you asked 4 times, I will tell you that I will not speak in Hindi. Okay? You learn English if you can. Fifth time, alright? Fifth time. Can you please speak in Hindi? Can you please speak in Hindi? Can you please speak in Hindi? Can you? So here 4 times. There 4 times individually, now 4 times collectively. 8 times he asked. So that's the reason why I won't speak. Okay? Happy? If you're not happy, then you can find any other person. Go. or otherwise you learn English and here. This is exactly what is very irritating. Yes, I mean, act civilly, act like a human being. Don't act like a kid, act as an adult. Unless you're a kid, I can't say much. But if you're an adult, then please behave like an adult. Why is the Gaudiya Shatrubodha aimed at Advaitins, people who don't pose a threat to the Vaishnav way of life, cow protection, or chastity of the women folk? That is not a fact. Our Shatrubodh is Advaitins because they are at loggerheads with the understanding of Vaishnava philosophy. They are complete offenders. They are the complete opposite. And if you see any other so-called religion in the world, more or less, is Nirvishesh. And that's what Advaitavadis say. That ultimately God is not a person, which is exactly what the other religions saying. They're actually clapping hand with the other religious systems, Avaidic religious systems, and in the garb of Vedic religion. That is why it is Prachanna Bauddham. It is hidden atheism. Bauddha hoita Nastik. So it's a Nastikyavad. Advaitavad is Nastikyavad. But with evidence from, seeming evidence from the Shastra. That is even more dangerous. To say, to steal is one thing. But to steal and say that Constitution allowed me to steal, therefore I am stealing, in the name of Constitution, that is even worse. If you twist the meaning of some constitution somewhere and say constitution allows me to steal, so I can steal. So that is complete, even worse than just stealing. So this is why Advaitavad is very, very dangerous. Although it may have the other structure of cow protection or chastity of the women folk and all these things, these will not stay if you lose the core. You understand? You can't have the crust and the mantle without the core. The core should be strong. The core should be the fundamental um, um, basis on which we should build our entire culture. Our culture is not these external things, but the internal thing, which is the core of it all. If you take out the core and then just follow some external things, and that's what has happened to Hindu culture, Hinduism, which is now known as Hinduism. Sanatana Dharma declined because people started to give less and less importance to the knowledge and only sticking to some rituals without understanding. And that's why people eventually they will find no reason why I am following all these things. Why women must be chaste? Even now, many women say, "Oh, why women must be chaste?" No, it should be done. We have to do. That is not an answer. Do because then you will climb higher, and become a man in your next life. And if the man is a devotee, and then you will actually go back to Krishna, you will go back to Vaikuntha. This is all stated in the Bhagavatam 7:11. So that going back to Vaikuntha is the goal. So all your activities are aligned with the goal. But if I find no alignment between the rituals and the goal, why would I follow? Of course, I will step away. Here, if ultimately everything is Advaita, there is no devotion there. Just I become one with God and then stay neutral like death. It's a suicide. It's a spiritual suicide. There's no activity there. No activity of service in the Brahma Jyoti. Suspension of material and spiritual life. So that is a very boring proposition. Why should I do all these chastity or cow protection only to attain a suicidal state? Why? Rather, I would engage in the activities of this world and be happy. So, because as souls we are active. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishthatya karma krit. 3:5 Bhagavad Gita. We cannot stay at any moment without doing something. So if I can't do spiritual activity, then I'll do material activity. I cannot be in this suspended state forever. So that is why it is Nastikyavad. It is not accepting the personality of Godhood. So that's why they are our Shatrubodh. Pativrata is a matter of woman's guna, personal spirit, and Sheela, integrity. Yeah, that's fine. But it will not stay. These things, as I already said, these things will not stay. for long. It will not be sustained for many generations. As the knowledge keeps eroding, the culture along with it keeps also eroding. And that's what is happening to Sanatana Dharma in India right now. The culture is eroding because the knowledge is eroding. Where is the learning? Even those pious people who go to the temple, they don't really have a good understanding of what they're doing actually. They don't even know what some pious, okay, my father, mother taught me this, that is some beginning, okay, some Shraddha is there, but the Shraddha has to translate into Sadhu Sangha and hearing. And the temple should be places where these things should be taught. So, if that is gone, eventually, like I am a perfect example of product of a degraded culture. Now, my family was a Brahmin family, but no study of Vedas, no study of the Smriti Shastra, nothing. Huh? And even ISKCON temple was there and a Hare Krishna movement was existing, but we did not know anything. Not even a single time I heard Hare Krishna movement or Krishna consciousness. Never. ISKCON, nothing. Not even my friends, not my relatives, not classmates, nothing. Until I received the book from one brahmachari, I saw this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. I don't know what that is, where, somewhere in some village or some town, they must be having some temple somewhere that is called International Society Krishna Consciousness. Maybe some international people came and did something somewhere. I have very, very vague understanding. I just read the book for what it is. I never went to the temple also. About 1 year later or something, I went to the temple. 1.5 years later, maybe. That, I mean, just see how much distance we have become from our real. We had never copies of Bhagavad Gita at our home, not let alone reading. We had some Hanuman Chalisa. Other than that, we had nothing. We had nothing of the Vedic scripture. Nothing. So I never knew that we could actually find a Bhagavad Gita somewhere. No, I never knew. Maybe somewhere in the caves of the mountains, they are there in Himalayas. That's what I thought. Really, I thought like that. Vedas are somewhere kept in some caves in some Himalayas or nowhere. Very, very vague understanding of anything. Practically zero understanding. So, of course, we will be attracted by so-called Western civilization and then science and something. Some explanation is there. Whatever bogus explanation, some explanation is there. No, okay, something fine. Okay, I will find something logical and then do go about it. In this way, Indian civilization has been eroding culture. So it all starts with the core. So we cannot allow. And their philosophy is just like the other religions' philosophy, where there is no understanding of a personal form of God. That is Nastikyavad already. That's why Nirvishesha Shunyavad Paschatya Desh Tarane. And in the garb of Vedas, you're doing that as even worse. So clean up. Let's clean up our house first. Like we our house is completely dirty. Huh? So that has to be cleansed first, and then yes, there will be common understanding. Then we can move forward. Without that, everything is just disoriented. Jai Shri Mahakal. Sir, how to make our mind as a friend? Chant Hare Krishna, read Bhagavad Gita, eat Krishna Prasadam. Start with this. Your mind will become your friend. And associate with devotees. Attend these classes. Your mind will become your friend. Okay. Next. Meet Thakwani. Hare Krishna Prabhu, I'm 19-year-old and somehow I am having anxiety of how painful death will be and suffering with intense negative thoughts. That means you're not reading enough. So you see, there is this verse. You see, yeah, we should understand that death is something which will come and we have to be ready for it. But it's not that we become so fearful of death that we have this inordinate fear that completely envelops our own existence. So that is not the whole point. You see, यथैहि कामुष्मिककामलम्पटः सुतेषु दारेषु धनेषु चिन्तयन् शङ्केत विद्वान् कुकलेवरात्यजात् यस्तस्य यत्नः श्रम एव केवलम्. Materialists are generally very attached to their present bodily comforts and to the bodily comforts they expect in the future. Therefore, they are always absorbed in thoughts of their wives, children, and wealth, and are afraid of giving up their bodies, which are full of stool and urine. If a person engaged in Krishna consciousness, however, is also afraid of giving up his body, what is the use of his having labored to study the Shastras? It was simply a waste of time. So, we should not be. We should know what is death. And that's what this whole knowledge is about. So, how to conquer this death. So, we should not be, too much in fear of, you know, this thing. Okay, next verse is something else. Okay, so next. But Desi mothers are proud that their sons work in Paschatya Deshas. This separation is okay, perfectly okay. Western countries, what they're doing? They don't even know what is the aim of life. They don't even know who they are. Okay, next. There is a lot of physical violence in Gaudiya Granthas. I see this as justification to be compact, competent, especially in these times where devotees face danger of being attacked. Self defense is one thing, but we depend on Krishna. You learn combat and then you will be going somewhere, becoming some martial artist rather than a devotee. So we don't want that to happen. So Krishna will protect. You know, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going through the Jharkhand forest, he was chanting Krishna, 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 Hey, Krishna, 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 Pahi Mam. राम राघव राम राघव राम राघव रक्षामां कृष्ण केशव कृष्ण केशव पाहि मां. So he was chanting like this and walking across the jungle in Jharkhand. He was teaching us that we depend on Krishna. Narasimhadev. Um, if there are other people who can do the Kshatriya aspect of it, that's another thing. But we as Brahmanas should focus on the primary activity and not get, what to say, distracted by other. But there are other people who can do this, and let them do it, and that will be a service. But if there is nobody, then we'll depend on Krishna or somebody protection. Okay, so I don't know, how are you being attacked? Every day you are being attacked. You chant Hare Krishna. No? Why? Where are you being attacked? You are talking as if everybody is like fighting with you every single day. So why don't you become a proper devotee first? Huh? Become a proper devotee. You are talking about all these things, but become a proper devotee first. Okay, so Prabhuji, how about serving cooked in the food of servant cooking the food in Vaishnava? So with this we answered. Ranveer from Beer Biceps approached Amogh Leela Prabhu in a similar way. What are your thoughts? I think I have seen some clips from that. Amogh Leela Prabhu presented some Vedic evidence and all that, but some of the thing is like his presentation was not like up to the mark. That's Ranveer from Beer Biceps worships Krishna alongside Yeshu. Oh, Jesus. Is it? So what should I do? Hey, please ask questions which have some relevance to the topic, yeah. I mean, come on. Behaving properly in order to promote a movement seems artificial. This is what happens when you don't hear properly. You keep typing away comments, and when I'm talking, your brain is somewhere else, and that's why you come out with this kind of comment. See, behaving properly in order to promote a movement seems artificial. What nonsense is that? We are not behaving properly in order to promote a movement. We are behaving properly means what? First of all, what is properly? Who defines what is proper? Krishna defines, not this modern society. No, no, no. They don't know anything what is proper. So we should keep our purity intact to protect our own religious principles and the movement at large. So, for example, um, a sannyasi should not have illicit sex, right? It's given. And even a grahastha should not have. A sannyasi should not have any sex. Now, if he has close association with women and is very intimately, then that means he is first of all not protecting himself, his own dharma, and also giving a disrepute to the movement. And people will have wrong things to say about the movement, and then they may stay away from the movement. So, it is not artificially we behave so that people will come. No, we're not for the people. We have doing it for our own thing. But then, for people to come, we have to maintain our, that's just one consideration. So, from every angle, you should see. Of course, it should be done with the consideration of full understanding, and we should, for our own purification, we should engage in this Krishna consciousness. Why then did Krishna tell Arjuna that you should fight, otherwise they will disrespect you? That is another angle. Because sometimes our considerations may not be, in terms of knowledge or something. Even if it was anything else, from all angles of vision, Krishna is showing why you should fight Arjuna. And also, Prabhupada also said this, that if you follow the 4 regulative principles and chant 16 rounds, the whole world will respect you. Because it is not easy to do. So, just by following our actual thing, not artificially anything, automatically people will be attracted. So, we don't need to, this is the thing. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate suraha. All the good qualities will automatically come in the devotee. As he becomes a devotee, everything will automatically come. So, if we are not acting on the principle of devotee, then we will stray away from the proper behavior, and that will bring disrepute. Shuklavastre masibindu jaiche nalukai sannyasira alpachidra sarvaloke gai. So, that is a verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. See, Shuklavastre masibindu. As soon as the general public finds a little fault in the behavior of a sannyasi, they advertise it like wildfire. A black spot of ink cannot be hidden on a white cloth. It is always very prominent. Although it is a very small spot. In a big white cloth, the black spot, however small, will become very prominent. But if a cloth with so much design and then there's some black spot somewhere, nobody will notice. So a sannyasi should be above criticism. That kind of, behavior he should have. And then he can command respect. And that's how people will come and listen. Yadyat Ācārya Shrestha. Tattvavit Rajana. So if you have to be Shrestha, somebody who is important in society, somebody who is a leader of society, then you have to. That Shrestha comes from respect from people who respect the values or the standards that you follow. So you don't have to do anything artificially. You just have to follow the sadhana properly. Automatically, the movement's reputation is intact. That's what I meant. Anup Mishra, where can I find announcement of your lectures scheduled in future? Okay, you know what I'll do? I will get a link of the WhatsApp group. Can I get it here? Yeah. I will share the link in the comment section here. Okay. Please join using this group. Okay. I have mentioned there as a comment. So I think somebody else also did the same thing from our Facebook handle. So this is the it's from mine only. Okay, it goes on both Facebook and YouTube, which is good. Okay, that's good. Okay, so that is the answer for that. It's a personal preference, and it would at least avoid falsity and pain. I don't know which you're referring to. So I don't know. Her husband, wait, her husband was also a closet homosexual. There was more to that Gaudiya Mutt Katha. And there is another one, which is a man who came out, who was also this thing. But, I mean, it happened. I mean, there was absolute nonsense that happened. We just had some mundane encyclopedia book set in the house that claimed to have everything from A to Z in 8 parts. Yeah, I remember something like that. But in what context is this? I don't understand why you mentioned this. We're always under the influence of material nature. Do we as Jiva really have any independence? I think this question was asked by Uddhava. You can read that whole chapter. I don't have time to take through it all at this time. Um, so it is like this. Okay, let me answer in a very simple way. We're under the influence of material nature. Do we Jiva really have any independence? So when a criminal is in the prison, he is always under the influence of the prison authorities. Does he have any independence? Well, he has. If he actually mends his ways, he can be out of the prison. So while the punishments of prison will be there, one should prove oneself to have atoned for his crime, and then he can come out eventually. So that same thing Krishna says, "Mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksheshamasucha." So he said, "I will liberate you from this material prison-like existence if you surrender exclusively to me." So there is a way to come out. So that's where this spiritual knowledge comes. Uh, but in analytical form, this question was asked by Uddhava, which is um, what chapter is it? 11, maybe? Srimad Bhagavatam 11. Perfect. You see 11, Supreme Personality of Godhead said, okay, before what he said, we'll go to 11, and see the question. उद्धव said, Shri Uddhava Vacha, Guneshu Vartamanopi Deha Jeshvana Pavritaha, Gunaiर्न बध्यते देहि बध्यते वा कथम विभो. O my Lord, a living entity, situated within the material body, is surrounded by the modes of nature and the happiness and distress that are born of activities caused by these modes. How is it possible that he is not bound by this material encirclement? Now, it may also be said that the living entity is ultimately transcendental and has nothing to do with the material world. Then how is he ever bound to material nature? So you can never say that he's not bound. At the same time, you can never say that he's bound. Then what is the situation? So that's his question. Katham vartet viharet kairva jnayet lakshanaihi kim bhunji kim bunjito visrujet छयीतासीतयाति वा एतदच्युतमे ब्रूहि प्रश्नं प्रश्नविदां वर नित्यबद्धो नित्यमुक्त एक एवेति मे भ्रमः. O my Lord Achyuta, the same living entity is sometimes described as eternally conditioned and at other times as eternally liberated. I am not able to understand, therefore, the actual situation of the living entity. You, my Lord, are the best of those who are expert in answering philosophical questions. Please explain to me the symptoms by which one can tell the difference between a living entity who is eternally liberated and one who is eternally conditioned. In what various ways would they remain situated, enjoy life, eat, evacuate, lie down, sit, or move about? So then, of course, Krishna answers this. This whole 11th chapter is, you know, so he's explaining just as a dream is merely a creation of one's intelligence but has no actual substance. Similarly, material, lamentation, illusion, happiness, distress, and the acceptance of material body under the influence of Maya are all creations of my illusory energy. In other words, material existence has no essential reality. It's like some matrix, you know, it happens in a dream. I think the Matrix movie is something like that. They lie down on the bed and they have this, some thing on their head, and then they go somewhere to the other world. So it's something like that, actually, honestly. When we are in the spiritual slumber, then we go into this dream-like state, and that is what this is, this material life. So, but Krishna is so kind that he comes within the dream to awaken us. He comes as Ācāryas, he sends his devotees, he comes as an incarnation and he sends his devotees as Ācāryas. He leaves behind scriptures so that we can make use of this conditioned state to liberate ourselves. So, just like Krishna went into the womb of Uttara to save Parikshit. So, Krishna enters into this dream, our dream, and then saves us. I born in Kshatriya family, but my father always taunt me that Kshatriya eats meat, and I practice our Vaishnava culture. Does there any mention in Vedas that Kshatriyas eat meat? No, first of all, why follow the Kshatriya culture only in the matter of eating? What about the rest of the things? Are you going and fighting? What weapon training you have? Do you know how to shoot arrows, or maybe at least say guns, or any some martial art at least? What do you know? So have you done any? And they're also not just fighters; they're actually administrative rulers. So is he a ruler, and is he some government office at least something in our present state? Why don't you follow all those things except to eat? I mean, without all of that, just you want to follow the eating part, right? Convenient, na? So there may be some kshatriyas who eat meat, but actually, no, they don't. Um, Bhima sometimes ate because there was an emergency. He was in Vanavas and no food. He was extremely Vrikodara. He's extremely hungry. At such times, it is mentioned that he ate meat. But I have to actually check the actual texts of Mahabharata where there's clear mention that he ate meat. But I do not know. But the Pandavas never ate. It is mentioned even Shudra does not eat. It's those who are beyond that. Sometimes Shudra may eat, but even Shudras are not supposed to eat. And the rest three, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, they are all Dvijas. They undergo initiation. So they are not supposed to. So I don't know. I need to see the Manusmriti, what it says regarding what are the diets of, you know. Now, Kshatriya is a person who is of mixed modes of passion and goodness and passion. Now, if you see the food in the mode of passion and goodness, meat is not one of the food. In that way, you can actually judge. In Bhagavad Gita 17:9, 17:8 first. So, आयुः सत्त्वबलारोग्य सुखप्रीति विवर्धनाः रस्याः स्निग्धाः स्थिराः हृदया आहाराः सात्विकप्रियाः. Foods dear to the mode, those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. Such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. Katvamla lavanatyushna tikshna ruksha vidahinah ahara rajasasyeshta dukkha shokamaya prada. Foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Such foods cause disease, misery, and distress. Yatayamam gatarasam poti paryushitam chayat uchishtam api chamedhyam. Amedhyam means this untouchable things. This is meat. Meat comes under this untouchable thing, amedhyam. So, bhojanam tamasa priyam. Food prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. So, meat comes here. So, from this, I can conclude that they are not supposed to eat meat. If there is another injunction somewhere else, I have to see. But that's not the question here. Of course, you are Vaishnav, you are following, that's good. We are actually not this Kshatriya. I was born in Brahmin family. That means nothing. It means nothing when you're born in Brahmana family, unless you are actually trained by like a Brahmana. If that training is not there, it absolutely means nothing. So, as Vaishnav, we cannot eat. Their goal is moksha. Whose goal is moksha? I lost the. Okay, Rajagishwar is saying, yes, you said we never had any Krishna conscious literature in the house, although we were born in a so-called Brahmin family. That's when I typed the comment. So yeah, we had some encyclopedia and a lot of Bollywood songs we had in the form of cassettes. A lot of Bollywood songs we had. So we had a lot of Shruti going on of nonsense. Matrix movie makers did acknowledge their script was based on our Vedic concept of Maya. Is that so? Okay. He had affair with Vaishya and made his wife while he was sannyasi. Yeah, no, all these things. But anyway, any of these things are bad. Or brahmacharya. Okay, anyway, any of these things are bad. Okay, so I think that's the end of it. Thank you all very much. चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अद्वैताचार्य की जय. Nitai Gaur Premanand. Hare 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 Krishna.